And ladies and gentlemen, we are back on a brand new episode of The Untold. Of course, today we have an amazing guest who is a singer, composer, everything that relates to music, but also she's a scientist as well. But before we get into that, I'm your host, Abdullah Hindiani.
And I'm your host, Jen Al-Athari. And Katrin is not only all those things, but also acts on stage. So mashallah, she wears many hats and has done many things. And I feel like it's really interesting to meet somebody who's managed to balance and juggle so many different fields, especially with a degree in the sciences, which is very difficult.
It is honestly, mashallah, a highly educated person, but as well as very musical, right? Because she is into composing music, which is itself very difficult to do, but also singing, like you said, performing on stage. I'm really curious to sit down, talk to her all about all of these worlds and how she's balancing all of this.
I am too, and I'm curious to know what her musical style is, how she finds her creativity, and all the behind the scenes that goes in someone who works not only on the stage, but behind it as well. So with that, we are going to take a quick break.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the break, so thank you for tuning in. But most importantly, thank you, Katrin, for being our guest here tonight at The Untold.
Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
I mean, it's so nice to meet you too. And I heard that you're, a musician. And I wanted to ask you, where did your passion for music and performance first begin?
My passion first began from a very young age. My father and I used to sing and dance to the sound of music.
I love that.
Yeah, he had a record of it and a record player. We'd just put it on and we'd dance along to it. He'd also play the piano for me and I just listen. But I never really picked it up myself until after he passed away.
Allah yarhamah.
Allah yarhamah. But it's kind of me carrying on his legacy in a way.
So I do want to ask you, obviously you've gotten the support, or I would say the motivation to, be in the musical arts from your household. But would you say, along the way, as you found your voice, it is something you've picked up from your childhood, those kind of days, or is it something you've developed across the years, across trials and tribulations, across successes and failures?
It was definitely nurtured by my family. My mother was a great support from my youth up until now. And I did nurture my own style through influences such as Victorian literature, artists like Yanni or Chopin is a classic. Those are my main influences growing up. I also loved musicals, so I do take from different backgrounds.
I mean, I think it's really cool that you had a household that supported this kind of artistic self-expression. And, you got to enjoy it from a very young age, which allowed you, I think, to kind of find your own interests. Because you had influences from all around. Like, not many kids are growing up listening to Chopin and other things and saying that those are some of their influences. So it's really cool that you got to have a variety of things.
Absolutely.
And I also grew up listening to a lot of musicals because my mom loved them. So I watched Sound of Music, I watched all of those kind of ones, and we'd sing them all the time. But we weren't a very musical household, more into arts in different ways. But there's just something about those kind of movies that really kind of inspire you and make you feel good,
Absolutely.
So I did want to ask you, because obviously a lot of time people look at this stuff as more of like a hobby or thing that you do on the side. So what is it that made you decide to pursue this as a more serious thing?
So after I graduated, I found this kind of huge lack in my life. For a time, I took a break from all arts just to focus on my studies. And I realized that I'm the kind of person that needs both science and arts. I can't do one without the other. So I decided to start pursuing it as more of a, like a side hustle kind of thing. And I wanted that connection that you get from creating art with other people. And so, yeah, that led me to where I am today. I just started seeking out opportunities.
And would you say it was kind of hard to balance between those two worlds, your artistic side and between the scientific side, your art and work? Or was it something that just came to you naturally?
It always came naturally to me to have both together. Never had that issue, except for when I was doing my master's. That took all my focus. But before that and now, it's a very natural thing to have both.
I mean, a lot of people, I think, are able to find a good balance. It's not easy, though, especially if you're doing a more scientific kind of degree. Do you mind me asking what it was?
Biomedical sciences.
See, that already sounds very difficult. I don't think I could have done that, and also had this on the side. So,
Yeah.
so how did you manage to balance it? Did you have to really focus in one or the other, or was it just something that came naturally to you?
So during my studies, yes, I had to you know, kind of focus more on the studying aspect of things because it was a very demanding degree.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So I didn't have much time outside of studying to either like read creatively or write or do anything. But after graduating, that freed up so much of my time to kind of be able to read and create and do all those things again. So yeah, so during the day, in my bio, I have scientist by day, musician by night.
I love
That's
that.
kind of my my thing.
I think a lot of girls, we grow up with that kind of goal of having these dual sides, like by day
Yes.
this, by night this, you know?
It's a childhood dream, like you said. So
Literally.
I'm living it now, thankfully.
So are the two worlds, you know, organized? Are you the kind of person who has, you know, 8 to 10 is my science hours, 10 to 12 is my musical hours, or are your days, you know, chaotic but balanced at the same time?
No, in a way, it's like you said, in a day, during the morning, it's like scientific, and then during the night, it's more creative. So I have like rehearsals and practices in the evening, and during the day, I'm either studying or at work.
I mean, good on you for having the time to and the discipline to kind of create a routine like this. 'Cause I know a lot of creatives struggle with the idea of like kind of making a proper routine because inspiration sometimes strikes in unlikely places, and a lot of people I know can be very disorganized about things, but to do what you're doing, I think you have to be more disciplined with yourself and kind of focus
Yes.
on this is the hours for this is the time for this, just to make you can make everything work and enjoy what you love as well.
That's
Because
true, yeah.
as you love both, it makes sense that you want to kind of do the best at both as well.
But I always also have, like you said, inspiration strikes whenever you least expect it.
Yeah.
So I always have a notebook, or my phone is filled with voice memos of just me humming into the phone, just like, this is an idea I want to revisit later. So yeah, always have something with me to record for later times.
And you know, speaking about recording ideas, where do you get your ideas from? Because I know for a lot of people, they take walks. A lot of people have certain kind of, you know, music they listen to be inspired. Do you have, you know, inspiration rituals like those?
I usually create my music around stories and scenarios and characters. So that's a direction. It gives me direction on where to take my music. I can't compose on the fly, and if I don't have a story to go with it, I struggle. So I usually create a story in my head. If there's a project that somebody wants me to do, I just kind of create something in my head to go along with it, and I use that to tell the story through the music.
I think it's really cool that's how you approach music. I think a lot of people only focus on that when they're actually just writing stories or novels or something. They don't use it in a more musical sense. The fact that you can pick up, you might come up with a melody or something is one thing, but the fact that you like to come up with a character, and from that character you get, I guess, a kind of like, could you walk us through how it works for you? Like, let's say you've found a character you want to make music for in your mind. Like, how does it work?
So what comes first is different each time. So sometimes the character comes first, sometimes the melody comes first. And then if the melody comes first, I build the character story around that melody. If the character comes first, then I build the melody around the character. So for example, my latest release, it was inspired by Edgar Allan Poe and his work. So obviously he came first and his stories came first. And so I was writing a piece that kind of encompassed the vibes of his stories through like the horror and the Victorian era that he was writing in. So that's where the inspiration for that piece came from. For other things, I'm also on the side like as a hobby or writer, and I like to create pieces for my characters. Sometimes the melody comes before the character ever was created, and I'm like, okay, I need to create a character for this piece. This has to come to life for this character. So it depends on the project that I'm working on.
Yeah, no, I love that it works that way for you, because I'm more interested in the writing side of things myself. So I understand coming up with characters, and you're obviously quite an avid reader as well. Like, I'm getting it from some of the references you're pointing out. So I think it's really cool that you're able to kind of combine both of those worlds in one way. Like, I think that's a very unique approach to the musical world. So it's really refreshing to see and hear about. Are these the kind of things that have inspired your musical sound? Like, is it always references like this, or like what else do you draw inspiration from?
I do tend to lean more towards like darker sounds. Also symphonic. I really am a huge fan of symphonic metal. And so I'm trying to like draw inspirations from orchestra, metal. I kind of combine all that like whimsical, dark vibe into my music. It's what I love to listen to, and that's what I love to create.
And you know, speaking about creating the music itself, of course, you can't have the music without the instruments.
Yeah.
So are there certain kind of instruments you know, feel connected to, you lean toward to, or are you just, you know, whatever fits the mood is the one that you pick the most?
So I'm a pianist. I have been for 24 years now.
MashaAllah.
And that is my main instrument. And it's the keyboard is what I use to craft anything. That's the basis of my music. I usually start off by recording a piano version of whatever it is, and then I build on the instruments on top of it. For example, I assign, let's say I'm playing a section, and this part of the piano is assigned to this instrument, and this part is assigned to that. So I kind of split up the piece with the different instruments. I do lean a lot towards strings and flutes. Those are my favorite instruments. And so they are very prevalent in my music.
I mean, speaking of those, is there any instrument that you wish you could master other than the piano?
The cello. I would love to learn the cello,
The
and
cello is
also the
beautiful.
flute.
Oh. Yeah, no, those are beautiful instruments. I can imagine, though, that they're not as easy as people might think they are. I don't know why, but they made most of us play the recorder back in school, in primary school.
I still have mine.
Not that anyone was actually good at it, I think. They just forced us all to learn the recorder, but it's very different
Yeah.
than the flute.
Yeah,
I remember
very
seeing
different.
like movies and people who actually play that it requires a lot of like lung power.
Yes.
And the cello is like just massive, but it's so beautiful.
It's very, very, it has a really nice, strong storytelling voice, is what I like to say it has. It carries a lot of emotion in it, and it really brings out a really beautiful sound to the orchestra around it.
Yeah, I mean, cello is amazing. If you go to my YouTube search list, I think the first word you're gonna have is called dark cello, because there's a very famous video, like 3 hours, and this is my signal to all audience to go and listen to that. Cello is amazing to listen to. But is there a reason why piano connected to you the most? And even though you say you kind of wish you know strings and flutes and the cello, but is there a reason why piano has that special place for you?
Well, I mentioned early on that my father used to play for me. He has a keyboard, and that was the first instrument I connected with in person, besides singing. That came a little later, actually. So I was surrounded by his playing, and so I just picked it up naturally afterwards. And I would just sit there and compose my own little things. Again, I also had stories when I was composing, but I don't remember them at all anymore. I would just sit there and think of something and just plunk away. And then my mom noticed that, and she got me a teacher. And so yeah, piano was the first instrument I ever learned. I briefly learned violin for about 2 years, and then it stopped after that.
I mean, I think you go back to that quite easily. Like I unfortunately never really learned any instruments. I tried, but I'm just not that musically inclined. I'm more of an enjoyer of music than a player of music. Abdullah, I think you play the guitar though, right?
Yeah, I try sometimes.
What's your favorite thing to play on it?
Well, I learn mostly classical genre, which is very
Okay.
niche in the guitar world. It's one of those, I'd say, boring to listen to, but I find myself very much engrossed in them.
No, classical guitar is very beautiful.
It's amazing, yeah, to me. Yeah.
I have listened to a bit of it in the past. I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Maybe because I just gotten a little bit older now. I have tinnitus, so I can't listen to anything, very super aggressive. So classical just gets me in that my 80-year-old, it just fits right there.
Preparing for the future.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I personally love classical music. When I was younger, I did a lot of ballet. So all the music then is classical. And with the musicals my mom used to make me watch, I was very interested in more of the old school music growing up. And that built the kind of foundation for me. And I got more into the mainstream stuff as I got older, I think. With your friends, with this and that, it just kind of evolves naturally. But it just shows how music is a very individualized taste, but also how it brings people together from all different places.
Yes.
We are going to take a very quick break, and I hope we can, discover more about your musical journey. So stay tuned.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Katrin, I do want to ask you about something, when it comes to a lot of singers, a lot of artists, you develop your style, your, taste in music, your, I would say, voice across the years through so many influences, right? They are, accumulate over one another. So I do want to ask you about, those kind of influences you've had across the years, whether it's for your artistic journey, your writing, lyrics, your singing voice, what were those kind of influences?
So for singing wise, I am very drawn to Celtic voices. They have a very soft quality to them, some of them, and I find that their music kind of matches my voice. And so I do sing a lot of Celtic music at home. I haven't performed any yet, but that kind of style really, it's very transportive. When it comes to lyrics, as a poetry reader, I'm actually not that great of a lyricist. Even though I love reading poetry, I can't translate that to my writing, so I usually ask my friends to help me out with the lyrics. But I haven't written a song with lyrics yet. That's coming in the future, hopefully. I'm working on that skill at the moment.
I mean, it's cool that you mentioned Celtic music because I actually love Celtic music. I also agree with you that it kind of sends you to a different world. It's very whimsical, very
Yes.
kind of like magical in the forest, kind of like I love the sound of the music itself that they have. And it's really cool that you said that your voice matches that. I think we don't have enough of that in the Arab region as a more kind of unique sound, and it's really beautiful as well. And I love how you're merging all these different genres together to kind of create your own sound. It's really awesome because I think a lot of artists, they sometimes follow certain things, but over time they develop their own niche way of kind of presenting their music.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know you're more of a composer in some aspects, so that's why you have a friend who helps you write. So do you usually always collaborate with your music with other people?
I love collaboration. I'm a firm believer that any form of art, whether it's music, painting, dancing, it's a communal thing, it's a collaborative thing. You can only go so far on your own. So, and everyone has different skills that they can share and add to whatever it is you're working on. So I love working in teams personally and asking people to like join and do things. Yeah, it's all about collaboration and it brings so many people together, like you said.
So do you find the creative process difficult, trying to juggle so many minds, or have you found the perfect balance between, bouncing around these ideas to come up with a great kind of, artistic, I would say, song?
It differs project to project. Sometimes minds clash and that's normal. And sometimes you get along so well, it's kind of scary sometimes. There are moments where when you're working on a song or you're performing it, for example, for the first time together as a group, whether it's a cover or an original, usually covers, you get into this zone where you're all connected and it's just a very beautiful space to be in. And once you're finished with the song or the rehearsal, you're just like, whoa, we did that. That was so cool. And then, again, it depends on the team. Sometimes minds clash, ideas clash, and you just have to compromise with each other.
Compromise is always key, I think, at the end of the day. Like, not everyone can have things their way entirely. Something I struggle with personally in my life because I'm a my way kind of person. I was that person in the group project in school who hated working with the group, and I was like, I should do this stuff myself. Took me a long time to kind of learn, like, I think to kind of work with a team. And I think also it makes a big difference, the team that you have.
Absolutely.
Like, there are some people that, like, they're not going to put in the work, so it's very frustrating. When you find the right team, like here on Untold, we have an amazing team, so everyone collaborates together and everything comes out really beautifully. So I think you get that with your music. You get that more like, happier kind of way of working together with people.
Absolutely.
Which was more about your first performance.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I wanted to ask you, like, what was that like? Like, how did you feel? Were you nervous, excited? Walk us through it.
I don't remember the very first performance ever, but there was one performance I had when I was 12. It was in high school. There was a music competition. And our school had houses, so 4 different houses, and my house was the first house to perform, and I was the first performer of my house. So I opened the whole competition. And I remember sitting at the piano, looking at the mic, I was singing and playing at the same time, and my teacher was announcing the beginning of the competition, and I just freezed. And I realized I forgot everything.
Oh no.
I turned to our house head, I'm like, I forgot the song, I forgot the lyrics, I forgot how to play. And then I just kind of, as my teacher was announcing my name and the start of the thing, I just started playing. I don't know, it just came to me in the moment. And I completely forgot that the audience were there, even though they were right here. Like, there was not that much space between me and the audience. It's just, once you start, you forget everything and you are in the zone.
So do you still have those kind of, nerves whenever you perform in front of people, or is that something completely gone by now?
It's as you practice and perform more, it kind of you get used to it, and I don't deal with that anymore, thankfully. I think it was just that first time because it was my first time performing alone and doing both together, singing and playing. I kind of freaked out, and I was the opening of the whole competition, and it really got to my head. But the more I did it, the easier it got.
Yeah, I think also you're quite young at the time as well. So it's very, I think also it's really normal to feel nervous, especially if it's your first time doing something like that. And you just had a bit of stage fright.
Yeah.
You kind of froze, but luckily, as soon as the music started, you were back where you felt comfortable, I guess, with the music, with how things worked. And it's great that you don't feel those kind of nerves anymore. So you don't have to really deal with any kind of do you have any pre-show rituals, or do you just kind of go into it like you're fine now?
So pre-show jitters always happen. You just have to learn to manage it. So I just take a couple of deep breaths before, and that's usually good. And if I'm performing with other people, usually we sit together, or I try to get them together and we breathe together.
Now, when it comes to the mental side of things, when it comes to performing in front of people and then performing for a recording or, rehearsing that kind of performance, what we say is the main difference between the two? Like, is it the people watching, the idea, having yourself criticize your own self? What is the biggest, say mental difference between those two performances?
So when you're rehearsing or recording, you're very focused on yourself and what you're doing, especially when you're recording, because usually everything's recorded individually. So for vocal performances, I tend to be a bit harsh on myself because you have to get everything perfect. The take has to be perfect. But when it comes to performances, especially in things like musicals and like shows, you have to trust that what you're giving the audience is good. And you lay it out there, and it's up to the audience to do what they want with it. And there is always a moment of connection between the audience and the cast. And that is the most beautiful thing you could ever experience, that you will never get that in a rehearsal studio or in a recording booth. You can connect with your fellow musicians, but then there's that with the audience, it's even better or bigger, I would say, because they're with you in the quiet moments, they're with you in the loud moments, the happier moments, and you take them on this journey, and they go on this journey with you through all the emotions. And it's you've hit them when they cry.
No, so true. I think for sure when you're performing, it allows you to kind of connect with the audience, with people. It's like on the other side in the audience, if you're going to a live show, live music, it's a completely different experience than listening to it on the radio or something. There's a feeling you get like with a bunch of people who are sharing that same experience.
Absolutely.
And it becomes much more wholesome and a lot more invigorating. Like everyone's on the same wavelength, and it becomes really beautiful. So it's great that I think to be able to be on this other side, creating that experience for people as well. And I do want to ask you though, because do you think that singing and acting require the same level of skills, or are they very different, or do they complement each other? How does it work for you when you're on stage?
There's a lot of crossover. For example, vocal techniques and warm-ups. You have to warm up as an actor, you have to warm up as a singer, whether it's vocally or physically. Both require certain amounts of warming up before you perform and go on stage. Where they differ though, singing doesn't always require emotion. However, emotion may come with it. When you're performing in a studio, you don't have to emote, so you can be as as you want, even though your voice might be conveying something else. But when you're on stage, you put on a certain character. So I guess anyway, there's a lot of overlap, like I said, because even if your song isn't in a musical and you're on stage, you still have a persona to upkeep.
And so to you, personally, how would you define the power of singing, the power of performing on stage? Like to you personally, what does all of this mean to you?
I wouldn't be where I am today without it, or who I am as well. The people I've met, the experiences I've gone through, music has gotten me through all that, and so has theater. And they really give me they add so much meaning to my life, and the way that they are my reason to be alive. Especially when you are doing things with other people and you get in that zone with them, you feel alive. And it just makes my heart blossom so much. And it makes the people around me happy as well. And so those shared emotions really give you strength to just keep on going throughout your day and your life.
So do you feel like these kind of moments with art that you've experienced have helped you bring people together or help people heal as well?
Art in general, or expression, is in itself very healing. And it's healed me through a lot of things that I've gone through in my life. And I'm sure other people have related. I know a lot of people who have that one artist that they listen to during very difficult times that got them through that, and they find it healing for them to listen to them again in the future. Like, oh, I used to listen to this in a very dark time in my life. And then you reflect back on that moment and how far have gotten from that. And then you meet other people who have maybe listened to the same artist or a different one, and you share that with them. And that process itself is also very healing. So yeah, music is a very, very strong healer.
So are you able to separate, those kind of emotions whenever you're performing, especially in front of people? You're feeling down within the day, you're feeling something, and sometimes you can carry those emotions to the performance, but are you able to differentiate between the two?
That's where musical theater and acting training comes in handy, because when you are an actor and you have to go on stage, you have to shut out those emotions and you have to be in the moment in the character, with the character that you're portraying. It's not always easy, it's not always perfect. Things do happen. But you learn the skills to help you kind of get in the character's mindset that you're portraying. And when it comes to musicals, just for regular shows, it helps to have an onstage persona to embody, to help you get out of yourself, out of your own kind of shell, to perform properly and well. But it does get in the way sometimes.
I think that's normal, and I think it's really wonderful that you're able to find that balance, that you're able to kind of do everything you love, but also share your emotions with people, share your experiences, and really bring performances to life. And I wish you the best of luck with the way that you're continuing on with your composing journey, and I hope you get to explore more different kinds of music. And I just want to thank you for joining us today, because it's been so much fun talking to you and seeing this other side of the creative process, I think you could say.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. With that, we are taking a quick break. And we're back from that short break. And Abdullah, talking to Katrin was a pleasure. I love how her mind works. She grew up with this musical kind of lifestyle, very supportive with her family, inspired by her father. And yet she chose to study a very difficult degree that I can't even remember right now because it's beyond my capabilities of comprehension. But even with all of that, she chose after she graduated to kind of not only focus on her science career, but also still compose music, act, do many musical and creative things.
It is, and mashallah, she also has a master's in it, on top of being a qualified composer and a singer and performing on stage. It's been amazing to talk to her. Like you said, she is into pianos, she's into composing classical music. I mean, the first reference she mentioned was Chopin, which I'm if I didn't listen to classical music, I don't think anyone's gonna guess that. Very educated. She brought up Edgar Allan Poe as an influence of writing. Mashallah, she's highly educated, and it was really great talking to her.
I agree. I loved her creative process of finding characters for the music or creating a melody and then coming up with a character. It was very unique, I feel. And I love seeing fresh approaches to creativity and music and all that stuff. And I wish her the best of luck in the rest of her endeavors.
It is. We do wish her the best of luck. We wish you all, ladies and gentlemen, the best of luck. But until the next episode, goodbye from here.
Goodbye, and see you next time.